I have the great joy of introducing our next speaker, Bill Talerico. Welcome, Bill. So good to have you with us tonight, this afternoon, actually. And Bill is going to share a testimony of his own relationship with St. Joseph, what St. Joseph has taught him as a husband and a father. Bill has been a friend of the community for many years, and he is a husband to Susie and wife of 3 kids, Bella, Gianna, and Dante. And he's also now the proud papa to Adelie. Congratulations, Bill. Bill is the president of the Talerico Group, a consulting firm that helps organizations grow by providing sales coaching, executive coaching, and talent acquisition services. Bill has served on many nonprofit boards, including the Catholic Men's Fellowship of Pittsburgh, Seton LaSalle Catholic High School, and the Hillman Cancer Center. And also, you serve on our Mission Advisory Council. So thank you for all of your service, Bill. And I want to thank you especially for spending your birthday with us today. Your 50th birthday today, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Bill.
Thank you, sister. It's so good to be with all of you, and thank you, sister, for that kind introduction. As she said, today is my 50th birthday, and I thought it was kind of funny, that number 50, because I grew up an only child, and now I have 50 sisters, right? So it's good to be with you guys, and to all of you at home, thank you for joining us, and we're sorry you're not here today. It's pretty awesome when you get to walk in this chapel and feel the spirit that lives here. So thank you. And as I mentioned, it is my 50th birthday. And, for so long, I thought about this day, as you get into your 40s and you start thinking as you grow older, what's that day going to be like? And when I thought about my 50th birthday, I always thought, how many people are going to be at my surprise party? And what are they going to say about me? There'll be great stories, and I'm sure, some of them will be not so great, where they'll be roasting me. And now as I stand here on my 50th birthday, in the year of St. Joseph, who I love so dearly, speaking with all of you who mean so much to me and are such a great witness, to have the opportunity to share a witness story about St. Joseph in this year of St. Joseph with all of you, it's the most perfect celebration I could imagine. It's far better than being what I ever dreamed of. So thank you for that gift. And I think that's the power of St. Joseph. I looked inward, and so much of my preparation for this day was vanity. How will I elevate myself, right? How will others elevate me? And that's the power of St. Joseph, is the humility of St. Joseph, that witness that is his life, that is a life lived for others, fully focused on others, to live a life full of sacrificial love. And that is what St. Joseph did. For just as St. Joseph is the perfect representation of our Heavenly Father for the Christ child, and for each of us, I've fallen in love with him and hope to become that representation of the Heavenly Father's love and the Heavenly Father's heart for my children. And what I've learned is I'm a rather imperfect representation of that love, but I keep trying. I've lived most of my life with a false sense of what it means to be a man. I think just as most of us do. Right? I had been raised to believe that a real man was brash and dominant and successful by the world's standards. And I have this theory of men, just as we've all seen lions on those nature shows, when lions encounter each other and they do that little dance where they circle each other and they're looking to see who has the biggest mane, to see who's tougher, who's more ferocious. Well, I think men do that, right? When we meet another man, we usually do that dance, but it looks a little more like us asking questions like, what do you do for a living? And where do you live? And where are you from? And, we're looking at each other and trying to assess who's more successful or who's more dominant, who's more masculine. And that's a result of our brokenness. That all comes from our brokenness and our lack of understanding of what real unconditional love looks like and feels like. And I think most of us have never experienced a true, inexplicable, unconditional love of our Heavenly Father. Because those who should reveal that love to us are themselves broken. And, that brokenness led me down a path of sin and searching for much of my life. I realized I was searching for acceptance and affirmation. I call this the desire to be desired. Right? Whether it's by women as we grow up, whether it's by colleagues once we get out of school, whether it's by classmates in college, whether it's by friends, just by society. We have this desire to be desired. And Matthew Kelly likes to say, we can't get enough of the things we don't need. Well, that phrase summarized probably my first 25 years of existence. I never really understood what unconditional love was until I met my wife, Susie, who's with us here today. She's the only woman up front here not dressed in a habit, in case you're wondering which one is her. So I never really understood what that unconditional love was until I met Susie. And she was the person who reflected that unconditional love of the Heavenly Father for me and allowed me to understand the power of that love for the first time. She didn't care how successful I was when we met. Thank God she didn't, because I wasn't very successful by many standards. I had a 2-year-old daughter, Bella, who I'd had out of wedlock, and that was about all I had, right? That's about the only good thing I brought to the relationship. I didn't love myself very much, and in retrospect, I might not have loved myself at all. And as a result, I couldn't love others very well. But Susie loved both me and Bella instantly, and that unconditional love can transform us. And I think that's the unconditional love that St. Joseph brings. Because, see, I saw myself as an object. I was only good if I did good, and if I did bad, well, then I was bad, right? And I think too many of us carry that torment with us. I'm good if I do good, I'm bad if I do bad. And these feelings can be crippling, and they couldn't be more wrong. Because, see, I've learned that I'm not the sum of my actions. I'm good for one reason and one reason only. I'm good because our Heavenly Father created me good, period. He created me good. So it's difficult for us to imagine that love, right? That goodness that our Heavenly Father places in us, because we don't get to see Him. But we get to see St. Joseph. And I think for many of us, it's difficult to understand what that Heavenly Father's love must feel like and what that heart must be like, because many of us weren't raised with a father, or we were raised by a father that didn't reflect love that way, that didn't embrace what it meant to be Joseph-like. And it wasn't until I embraced St. Joseph as my spiritual father, as my patron, as my role model, that all of that changed for me, right? Because, you think about St. Joseph, and what just overwhelms me sometimes in prayer is that God chose St. Joseph to teach him how to be a man. Wow, right? Wow. So just as God chose Our Lady from the beginning of time to be his mother, he chose St. Joseph to be his father and to show him how to reveal the love of our Heavenly Father. It just is overwhelming to me. It wasn't a coincidence, wasn't an accident. From the beginning, just as Mary was chosen, Joseph was chosen. And it was in drawing close to St. Joseph that it showed me what a real man should be. Right? So what is a real man? The answer is simple. A real man is a man who lives and loves sacrificially. That's it. Right? A real man lives a life in service of those God has entrusted to him. And a real man knows how to make known the incredible love of the Heavenly Father's heart. Our Heavenly Father's heart is so full of love, compassion, mercy, just so much goodness and richness that it's our job, and St. Joseph has motivated me to attempt to live a life that reflects that love and that goodness. How? How does that happen, right? So St. Joseph loved Our Lady, his spouse, so fully that he didn't feel worthy to care for her. This is the reason he wanted to divorce her quietly, right? Not because he was done with her or didn't believe her, but it was out of love. It was out of reverence. He didn't feel worthy to care for her. So I ask myself, as I journey to be more like St. Joseph, do I love my wife that way, right? Do I look at her every day and ask myself, why do I deserve her even though I know I don't? Do I pray for her every day? Do I respect her and show her the reverence she deserves? Because after all, she's the one person in all of creation that God chose just for me. St. Joseph believed the angel, even though he didn't feel he was worthy of Our Lady and feel he was worthy to care for the Christ child. He trusted the angel's word, and he turned and acted after the angel spoke to him. So again, I ask myself, do I have that level of trustful surrender in my life to do what I believe God is asking me to do? Do I trust in God's providence that he'll give me what I need to do what he asks me to do? That he'll build me up and make me better than I think I am? That he'll make all things right if I just act? Do I have the faith that allows me to walk out into difficulties trusting that the Lord will make it right and I don't have to? St. Joseph took his pregnant bride on the journey to Bethlehem. And, I drove here today pretty comfortably, right? But St. Joseph journeyed out with a donkey and a pregnant wife. And one of my favorite movie scenes of all time comes from the Nativity story. And in the movie, which chronicles the period of time between Mary and Joseph's life, between the Annunciation and the Nativity itself, they start out, and the scene shows them stopping in the evening before they rest, and St. Joseph pulls out of his bag of the daily rations. And all he has left for dinner is one loaf of bread, which we know is a piece of pita bread, right? One piece of pita bread. And he gives thanks, he breaks the bread, and he gives half of it to Our Lady, and she begins to eat it, and Joseph pretends like he's eating it, and then he tucks it away in his cloak. And later, after Our Lady's sleeping, he gets up and he goes and feeds his bread to the donkey, because he knows he needs to care for the donkey if the donkey is going to care for Mary and carry her the next day. And you think, like, wow, that's the image of a man, right? That is the image of man that God laid out for us, that we would sacrifice our bread for a donkey because we know we want to care for our bride and our child that desperately. So for me, ever since I had seen that movie, that's become my image of what it means to live sacrificially for your family. And that's because of St. Joseph's example. St. Joseph arises in the middle of the night to walk to Egypt. And his mother Angelica used to say, old men don't walk to Egypt, right? But St. Joseph arises to walk in the middle of the night to Egypt because of the voice of the angel. Again, that trustful surrender. And he does it so that he can protect our Blessed Mother and the Christ child from the evil of King Herod and the father of lies. So I ask myself, am I willing to work hard and fight evil to protect my wife and my children and my community? Am I willing to physically sacrifice my comfort for their safety? And am I willing to work hard for them and find dignity in my work to provide for them and those that God has entrusted to me? St. Joseph has shown me that our Heavenly Father will one day judge me not on the riches I accumulate, not on the machismo that I demonstrate, or any of the other false standards of our society. He will simply judge me on how closely I reflect the loving heart of the Heavenly Father, just as he did so perfectly. So St. Joseph has truly changed my life. When I get frustrated with others, especially those in my own family, which rarely happens, I'm able to pause and ask myself, how would Joseph handle this, right? Would he become angry like I do? Would he curse like I do? Would he become frustrated and look inward and ask, why me? Or would he see others through the loving eyes of the Father? Would he look at them and see them as the Father sees them? Would he treat others with love, the perfect love of our Heavenly Father? I think we know he would. So I encourage each of you in this year of St. Joseph to draw closer to him and embrace him. We often hear the phrase, to Jesus through Mary. And it's because Mary always points us to Jesus. She never points us to herself. And I have a phrase that I've started to pray on this year, and I encourage you to embrace it, and that is, to our loving and merciful Father through Joseph. Because Joseph always reflects and always represents our Heavenly Father and his loving heart. So thank you all for your time. Thank you for being with us today. And I ask that through Joseph's intercession, we ask God to bless you, your families, and the sisters, and all the good work they do.